The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd is the one who lays down his life for his sheep. The hired man, since he is not the shepherd, and the sheep do not belong to him, abandons the sheep and runs away as soon as he sees a wolf coming. And then the wolf attacks and scatters the sheep. This is because he is only a hired man and has no concern for the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for my sheep. And there are other sheep I have that are not of this fold, and these I have to lead as well. They too will listen to my voice, and there will be only one flock and one shepherd. The Father loves me because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. And no one takes it from me. I lay it down of my own free will. And as it is in my power to lay it down, so it is in my power to take it up again. And this is the command I have been given by my Father. The Gospel of the Lord. The Sunday, as we well know, is traditionally called Good Shepherd Sunday, obviously, because of the Gospel read. And it's a day and a Sunday in the Church's calendar where we want to promote vocations. And Bishop Steve has asked us, the priests and the parishes in the diocese, to do an appeal for not only men who could be suitable for the priesthood in the diocese, but also an appeal to the people to give donations to the running of the seminary. So I just want to bring that to your attention today. There are envelopes on the side tables at the back of the church. On the back of the newsletter, there's an internet link to make a donation for the running of the seminary, for the costs that are involved in the formation of the men that will become priests, God willing, for the Diocese of New Zealand, especially the Auckland Diocese. We are coming to a crisis point in this diocese especially, but it's the same, I think, for all the dioceses in this country, where a number of priests are getting older and they have less and less good health, and will be out of active frontline ministry in the years to come. Only a few years and we'll probably lose another 15 priests from active ministry in the parishes. And that is going to put enormous strain and tension on the numbers of priests that we have, to such a degree that parishes will probably close and parishes will be twinned. And there, my brothers and sisters, there's a responsibility on our shoulders as the laity, but also the priests, to not only look for vocations, but to especially pray for vocations. There's many reasons why there's been a drop in the number of the priests, and it's not something I'm going to go into this morning. But what we can certainly do to try to help the situation is carry this in our prayer every day and ask the Lord to give us suitable men, holy men, traditional men who are willing to give their lives and serve the church, serve Christ, as he was a good shepherd, and be good shepherds after him. This is very, very important, my brothers and sisters. If we want to keep the masses in the parishes, and we don't want the priests but just driving around like mass functionaries, where the priests are the parishes are essentially run by the lay people, and every now and again we have a priest drop in to say mass and maybe hear confessions. If we want to maintain the true way that things should be, we must pray. Every day, all of us, we must be carrying this in our spiritual hearts and as a spiritual responsibility for the church. It's a way we can love the bride of the church. Christ truly is the Good Shepherd. He's the one who lays down his life, contrary to what is going on in that current day and time. The leaders of the Jewish people have gone off track, as we well know. And Christ, when he's speaking about being the Good Shepherd, he's not only picking up themes from the Old Testament and showing that in fact he's divine, because in the Old Testament, God, when he's speaking to his people, speaks of himself as being the shepherd who will lead the people. And when Jesus takes this title to himself, certainly there's an element of it where he's speaking of himself as God, as a divine presence. And he's one that will lay down his life. So it is in contradiction to the way that the Jewish leaders are. They are hired men. They're only there for themselves. They're there for various corrupt reasons. We need in the church today men who are like Christ, not hired, not there for whatever comforts that might be available, not there for the propagation of personal agendas, particular personal theological or spiritual positions, but there to serve the church and to be at the service of the true good of the people, laying down their lives. The priesthood, an incredible mystery, something that most good lay people, Catholic people, have a deep respect for and a strong intuitive sense of how beautiful it is, the priesthood. And that's not to put the priests on some false pedestal. It is a true reception, recognition of a gift of Christ into the church, which is for the feeding of the church, for the building up of the bride, for the flourishment of the baptized members of the church. An incredible mystery where frail, weak, imperfect men, through ordination, are configured to Christ, the head shepherd and bridegroom of the church. And to be an alter Christus, a presence of Christ within the church in a unique way, not putting down the laity, not in a rivalry or a competition with the laity, but to be at the service of the laity, living their true vocation as baptized members. The priesthood is there, yes, a spiritual gift, giving a spiritual power to men who are ordained, so that the gifts of Christ, the divine means, the sacraments, can be poured out into the church. So beautiful. But it's not just that, of course. It's not just a sort of a functionary, a spiritual function that's done through a mechanical way. The priest, because he's configured to shepherd, to Christ the shepherd, the bride and the head, takes on a certain paternity in the church, takes on a certain fatherhood to help the children in the church to grow, to guide them in a paternal love towards the promised homeland, into the verdant pastures where they can feed. When we see the priesthood in its reality, it's very, very consoling for the people. A Christian people, a Catholic people without a priest is like sheep without a shepherd. There's something incredible, a mystery of Christ, not because of the qualities of the men, but because of the spiritual power put into them by ordination, that the Catholic people sense very strongly, and they want their priests to be priests, to take up the dignity of their office, to respect it to its deepest core, and live of it in a real, authentic way, and not be hired men. The priesthood is to be at the service of the church as an image, an icon of Christ. And there, my brothers and sisters, it should be very obvious. Priests are not there to preach their own particular personal agendas. They're not there to preach climate change or all sorts of social things that are on the fringes of the church's mission. The core vocation of a priest is to look after the salvation of souls and to preach the doctrine, the mystery of the church, Christ himself, so that others can get to heaven. And if the priest does that well, he also will get to heaven. That's his mission, his vocation. Everything else, secondary and third and fourth, should never be put first, and sometimes it's just a waste of time. There are many people who can look after the secular things, including many of the social issues that we face, but no one has the power to confect the mystery of the Eucharist like a priest. No one has the power to forgive sins like the priest. And that doesn't mean, and I say it deliberately because there's always a danger in today's world, because we're so formed by a Marxist way of thinking, that when we're promoting the dignity of the priesthood, there's this strange reaction in some people, a minority, that somehow this means that the laity cannot be themselves or are being put down. No. The priest, when he lives of what he's called to, is an incredible gift to the church that should be loved by the laity, by the faithful. And he's the only one that can do those things. So let him be about those things most of all, praying the Mass as devoutly as possible, reverently, with great love for the Holy Eucharist, believing in it, and not only that, helping the laity to believe and love Christ there in the Holy Eucharist. That's the priest's job, as a father, as a shepherd, to shepherd the laity to Christ, not only Christ in all the personal ways that they encounter him, but all the other ways in the church also. My brothers and sisters, we need priests in this diocese, and good priests, holy priests, faithful priests. There's been such a crisis of the priesthood. No surprise, because we well know, for those who are attentive to these things, the way that the devil attacks God the Father is by attacking the fatherhood on earth. Not only natural fathers of families, the ridicule of paternity and fatherhood today is very strong, but also the attack against the priesthood in the church. And the main way that the war has been brought against fatherhood, both natural and supernatural, has been by the false propagation of feminism. The attack on the woman to make her miss her mark and misunderstood here who she is under God and in relation to man was a deliberate attack so that fatherhood be torn apart. And there, my brothers and sisters, we're in a crisis of fatherhood today, including in the church. We need bishops who believe, first of all, everything that the church holds and teaches, and bishops who will teach those things courageously. Cardinal Sarah, who's an incredible cardinal, African, from Guinea in Africa, and recently he was in Cameroon, another African country, giving a conference to bishops and clergy there. And he was speaking about how so many bishops in the West, the Western world that used to be Christian, now post-Christian, so many of them have given way to the secular culture and become practical atheists. This is a cardinal, a very high-level cardinal, very holy man. So beautiful to hear him speak honestly about these things, because we all know it and see it, feel it. If they were truly Catholic, a bishop that is, you would hear it in the preaching. They would warn the flock against the wolves and the dangers of our time, not only spiritual but also the moral dangers, all the different vices that are propagated by the world today. Where is the voice of the church to warn the sheep against these things? Not only do we hear silence, but we hear a strange complicity, a quasi-agreement where somehow the world might have it right. My brothers and sisters, yes, there are so many bishops who have forgotten, and priests who have forgotten that they are called to be, like Christ, signs of contradiction in the world, not signs of agreement. The gospel, the real gospel, will indeed stand against the errors of our time, and all of us must be aware of what the gospel asks of us, the demands on our Christian lives, and we need shepherds who will help the Christian people discern the signs of the times in this regard. We need priests who also hold the faith in its depth and preach it and live it, of course, and shepherd the people to the verdant pastures of the real Catholic faith. Not the half-gospel, not the watered-down version, the real thing that, of course, is animated by a very, very deep mercy, but a mercy, of course, for it to be real mercy, it has to be wedded to the truth. And I can tell you, my brothers and sisters, there are bishops who doubt the doctrine of the church, especially on the moral matters today. When I was at Hearts Aflame, in the homily there that I gave, I mentioned years ago I was having a chat to a bishop who's no longer a bishop in New Zealand on the matter of those who suffer from a homosexual orientation. And he was saying, we have nothing to offer them. What can we offer them as the church? And I said, well, we've got Jesus Christ. We've got the cross. We've got salvation. And he said, yeah, but that's not enough. There, my brothers and sisters, who would ever say that if they really understood who Christ is? Would St. Paul ever say that? Peter, in that first reading, imagine him saying that to his Jewish brothers. For all the names of the world given to men, Jesus is not enough to be saved by. It's not what Peter says. He says he's the only name by which to be saved, and of course he has done everything necessary and more, superabundant gift of salvation. That's what the church should be preaching to not only those who might struggle with that issue, but the transgenderism, those who are shacked up, living together, struggling with all the moral difficulties today. The message that we must preach is Christ wants you out of this, and he will give you an incredible mercy by which you can move out of these sins. Don't stay in your sin. Come, there's a new life, a greater life that Jesus offers you. There he has the power to make changes in people's lives. That bishop saying that to me when I was a deacon, it was a sign that he did not believe and a sign of despair, that Christ can't actually change people's lives, so we've got to change the gospel to suit people's lives. That's not Christian. That is not Catholic. It is not ever what the saints say. There are other bishops that I know of who think the same way. My brothers and sisters, let us, as Catholics, ask the Lord to put us always in the true light of the faith, to help us understand if we do have any doubts and confusions on these matters, to look into them, to search out the true Catholic position, to go further and further in our search for the truth. So easy we content ourselves on either watching something online that will further confuse us, or we think we've got it all worked out by our very shallow ideas. When we have difficulty understanding the position of the faith and the Catholic Church, it is an invitation from the heart of Jesus to come on further and search out why. Why does the Church teach this? Why does she take her position? And it's the job, the vocation of good priests to help the laity understand those things and hold to the true Christ in their faith and shepherd them home to heaven. My brothers and sisters, in a time where it's becoming more and more harder to be really Catholic, we will run up against things in our workplace. We will run up against things everywhere which stand against our faith. We have to be very, very strong in our conviction of the truth of our faith. And from that conviction, develop a courage to stand against the errors and the political mechanisms of our time. We must for our own salvation. We must for the salvation of others, to give light and witness. And of course, because we love God, we want to stay with Him, stay with the Lord as He's crucified again and again, sadly, by members of the Church. At the end of Mass today, Joshua Brody, who's been a regular member of the parish over the last few years, he's now in the seminary. Thanks be to God, he's an excellent man, and we pray for him. And I ask you all to pray for Josh. There, he's in his first year. He's just begun the 7 years of formation to be a priest. Wonderful, wonderful thing to see for the parish. And there's another who's been coming regularly to this parish, Zachariah Matthew. We pray for both of them, especially because we know their faces and they've been in the parish. Please do pray for them. They need your prayers to persevere to the point of ordination and then onwards for the good of the Church, for all of us. Josh, at the very end of the Mass, after the final blessing, I'll ask you just to sit for a few minutes, and he'll come up the front and just share with you a little bit about himself and his vocational journey. So that's just a little signal to the choir also, that after the final blessing to just wait before we sing the final hymn. So we'll sit and listen for a few moments, and then we will go on our way, obviously. And hopefully Josh will join us in the hall so you can have a chat with him and find out how the seminary life is going. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.